right, well, it is 12 o'clock, so we are going to start. Welcome everyone today to this special webinar hosted by the UW-Madison Full-Time MBA program. Today, we have the privilege of hearing from a panel of Black alumni who have successfully navigated the challenges and triumphs of the corporate culture after pursuing their MBA at UW-Madison. We are honored to have them here today and to share their experiences throughout their MBA and professional career. I'm Suri Pomakaji, and I will be your moderator for today's discussion. The University of Wisconsin-Madison is continuously working on improving its longstanding commitment to foster a diverse and inclusive environment, and connecting with our alumni of color is one way that helps the MBA program stay accountable. I have some questions for our panelists, and then we will reserve some time for Q&A via the chat function. Feel free to ask questions as we go along, but we probably will answer them towards the end. We will be hearing from 4 panelists today. Oh, let me double check on those housekeeping items. Thank you. Can you all hear me? If not, please do use the dial-in option for your phone from the confirmation email. To ask any questions, please use the Q&A icon. It is at the bottom of the screen. It should be located to the left of the chat box. And then we are recording this panel so that you can access it in the future. And I will do a quick little introduction for our panelists. We will be hearing from our 4 panelists today: Fatima Berry, Tosin Ali, Brandon Shields, and Zena Stevens-Joy. Please let me know if I pronounce any of those wrong. I think we're good. I am going to let all of you share a little bit about yourselves and introduce yourselves. So a little bit on your background and your journey being an MBA student, and then to your current role.
We'll let Brandon go first.
I'll go. Hi, I'm Brandon Shields, MBA class of 2017, proud Badger. I went to University of Wisconsin-Madison a couple of months after leaving active duty United States Marine Corps. 6.5 years active duty in the Marine Corps, deployed to Afghanistan as a police advisor. And when the time came, I decided that I wanted to pursue an MBA to get me to the next phase of my life. So I departed North Carolina for Wisconsin with my 14-month-old son. At the time, I was a single father, but I knew Wisconsin was a place where I would be able to pursue my education and goals and still maintain my job as being a dad. 2 years within the program and also a consortium fellow. I then was recruited by DuPont as part of their management rotation program, but sensing the need for a pivot, I made my way into finance, where I've been for the past few years after graduation. I've managed to earn myself promotions and new roles every year, with a lot of what I've learned and experienced getting my MBA at Wisconsin and learning how to network and build upon that. So currently I'm a product group lead for business transformation in the credit card and unsecured lending line of business for TD Bank. It is one of the top 4 banks in Canada, and we are rapidly growing within the United States. And I find it as my job to help grow our credit card and lending business within that. And I'm the proud dad of 2 boys now, Brandon, who was a baby Badger with me at Wisconsin, and then Braxton, who made his first pilgrimage to UW this past fall. Oh, and I should lastly mention my wife, Diamond, who received her PhD from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. We met when I was a student there as well. So a little bit about me.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Brandon. Tosin, did you want to go next?
Sure. Tosa Ali, class of 2015 CFIB. That's 8 years ago, which scares me right now. I'm thinking about that. Not a double Badger. I came for post a graduate degree from the IIT Stewart School of Business. I was fortunate enough to get a fellowship as a consortium fellow to the Wisconsin School of Business for actually first in the marketing department, and just before I started, talking to somebody who's like a big brother to me, Brace Clement, who is class of 2013 or 14, basically said there are very few Black guys in finance, dude. You need to change, and that's probably one of the best advices I've ever taken. Post MBA, started off at Yum Brands in their finance strategy division for Pizza Hut Global. I moved on to Texas Instruments, similar strategic planning, FP&A. Ended up leading the P&L for their Internet of Things connected microcontroller division. JP Morgan came calling, started up their first FP&A team for their cybersecurity function. Was there for about 3 years. Equinix came calling, similar situation, set up an FP&A function for their core data center business unit. And actually, as of Monday, I will be starting a new role in a different company as a CFO for their data, AI, and ML. Won't announce the company yet because it hasn't been announced, but I'm not like Brandon. Brandon stays and gets promoted in place. I wiggle and move.
Well, congratulations and thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
All right. Zena or Fatima, either one of you?
I'm looking at Fatima. Did you want to go, Fatima?
Oh, go ahead, Zena. Nice
Okay.
seeing you.
Good to see you. So first, before I even hop in and talk about me, I want to say that it truly is an honor and privilege to be on this call with these people. So when I saw the guest list, I was like, ooh, how did I get picked to be with them? Because they are literally all three have been mentors to me in some capacity. Tosan was my alumni mentor. He helped me get my internship with Young Brands and helped me be successful throughout, even post internship, trying to find full-time. Tosin was very essential. Fatima was my second year mentor in the HR center. So she helped me navigate the center, also prepped me for OP, whipped me into shape, and really helped me to be successful during my time at UW. And Brandon was a peer mentor to me. We were very close during our time at UW, and he just continued to encourage and inspire me throughout our time. So I say that starting off because, again, it truly is a privilege for me to be on this call with these people. A bit about me. I am a Florida girl. I always start there because that is where my heart is. How did I wind up in Wisconsin, you ask? I did my undergrad in Atlanta, Georgia, and I also worked for Costco Wholesale during that time, front of house, back of house, doing multiple roles. And so eventually I knew I wanted to pivot into business. And so I went to UW where I specialized in HR. As mentioned with Tosan, I interned for KFC Young Brands in Louisville, Kentucky, where I met who would become my husband. Keep that in mind. It plays a part in my future story. After graduation, I was recruited to Emerson Electric in St. Louis, Missouri. So I served on their global wage and compensation team. And then my now husband proposed, and so I relocated to Louisville, Kentucky. I started working for a much smaller organization called Waystar, which is a national organization, but it's based here in Louisville. It was my first taste of technology business. And I would say, November of 2022, Fortro recruited me to lead and start up their total rewards function. So I am the first person to serve in this role for Fortro. And so it's been fun to create what this looks like for the organization and get back to working on a global scale. Oh, personal. Okay. Like I said, I'm married. I do have an amazing bonus daughter. Can't believe she's turning 10 this year. And we recently announced that we are expecting. So I will also have my own baby coming later this year.
Congratulations. That's so exciting. Fatima, go ahead.
Yeah, so happy and fortunate to be here today and joining these amazing people in this panel. So nice to see Tosan, Zena, and Brandon. So I am Fatima Berry, 2016 MBA in strategic HR. So after I joined Wisconsin, basically for me to kind of take that next step in my HR career, I joined a program with about 6 years of work experience in HR, and really was looking forward to build that well-rounded business acumen and truly be market myself as a business partner with HR lens. So that's one of the reasons that I joined the program, and also the partnership, kind of getting to better partner in not only in school, really helps you in terms of what I learned in Wisconsin in terms of partnership and building relation, really helps in terms of how I do it today in my real work in corporate US. So basically, so I am currently a VP of HR, Vice President of Human Resources, Head of HR for our global quality organization at Edward Life Science, which is a medical device company. So I lead an organization about 5,000 employees globally. So it's been amazing in terms of all the experiences that I have had in Wisconsin in the strategic human resources management. I can see all those transferable experience in the real life situation that I do now. So when it comes to my time at Wisconsin, I interned at ExxonMobil. So it was a great learning experience for me. And once I graduated, I joined Owens Corning, which is a building material organization. And they're headquartered in Toledo, Ohio. Spent about 3.5 years there and had various expat assignments across Europe in terms of starting off this UA organization for talent management and learning, and really supported a lot of mergers and acquisition from an HR due diligence perspective. I took a break out of work for about 18 months because I became a new mom. I have twin girls that just turned 3 years old. So I decided for myself it was a good time to really focus on my personal life, my family life. And it was just a big learning curve, being a new mom of twins and kind of juggling all of that. But it was by far one of the best decisions that I made for myself, and really helped me to kind of think about also work and how I approach things a little bit differently. So I'm very happy, as I mentioned, to be here and just spending the time with all of you, as well as all my amazing coworkers and peers that I am seeing, that I have not seen for God knows how long. It's been 6 years plus now.
Thank you all so much. I really appreciate you all taking the time to share those introductions, and we can dive right into the questions. I'm going to ask, some of them aren't so much questions, but they're prompts to start the conversation, and you all can take turns answering however you want. If you don't have an answer, that's okay. But it's more of an open-ended conversation. So the first question, that's not really a question that I wanted to ask, is if you all could describe a time where you were able to reflect on how your MBA prepared you for your current position. And this could be skills or other examples or instances that you found in the program.
One thing I think the Wisconsin MBA program is very good at, and I'll ask the others to jump in, especially during the internships. I realized very quickly that compared to a lot of my peers who were fellow interns from other schools, from a hard skills perspective, technical skills perspective, I mopped the floor with. And it's classes that I quite frankly hated during school. I can't remember her name now, but she taught kind of like a transforming data into a story class, which was critical for me in a strategy internship role. And I also, there was a communication kind of capstone program that was part of our of the whole program, that I found when it came to putting together a story to influence decisions. A lot of my peers who were interns from other schools didn't feel like they measured up, right? So it was, I got to work with the CFO for Pizza Hut. I got to work with EVP general managers and what have you, because that strategic communication side that I will credit to Wisconsin helped me differentiate myself a lot. So in this current role where I'm going into kind of like a hybrid intersection of finance and technology, being able to translate, technological terms, data, AI to business folks who don't know half of that stuff it's a superpower. And it's one that hopefully it's still ongoing in the program from a teaching communication and presentation skills. Andy Olin ran that, if my memory serves me right, he's done along too. But that's a skill set that is very, very needed.
I'm gonna echo what I'm not on mute. I'm gonna echo what Tosin said. I've only been in banking and financial services since 2019. And prior to that, my background was brand and product management, which is what I studied in the military. There is no reason where I should be in a leadership position where everyone else in the industry has been there for 20 plus years at my level and at my role. But I'm prepared to handle that responsibility because of the way I was able to learn about the importance of the different components of business while at the University of Wisconsin, right? It takes all of us to drive that P&L, the marketing, the HR, the tech, the finance guys. So when you are at UW and you learn the importance of each of those functions, you learn how to leverage each of those functions to become a leader within your organization. And that's how I was able to ascend so quickly in banking, which is a new industry to me and not what I went to school for.
Yeah, I also echo everything that you, Brandon and Tosin just mentioned. The program in Wisconsin really sets you to be successful, no matter what function you're part of in corporate America and across industry. Echoing definitely the strategic communication. You can tell from my accent, I'm not originally from the US. I remember when I joined the program back in 2014, I was about maybe shy over 3.5 years in the US. And my English, it wasn't that great at that time. I was always very struggle in terms of all the presentation, all the course of strategic communication for me was the most challenging course. I never understood how important it was until I actually started being in the jobs that I am and understanding how it is important to have not only that confidence, but also being able to speak business in so many different aspects. Every single classes that we took in the 2 years really is meaningful. I remember when we had, I cannot remember the course name per se, was operation, something along operation class. I didn't like that class at all. I didn't understand how it applies to HR, but I'm telling you, in my role now, having 3 manufacturing sites, oversight with almost 3,000 people, being able to speak the business language, understanding lead time, manufacturing processes, that's been one of the most valuable and transferable learning in the real life situation. So definitely is this program are really getting us to be the business leaders that we are in many of our different functions, and it is really to Wisconsin really play in very big in my career and the role that that I have today.
I don't really have to say much because they've all said it pretty well, but I always think about our groups that we were forced to be in the group projects. And at first it's annoying, right? Like, who always wants to work on group projects? And then you're working with different personalities and people who are in different centers. And so they're coming with different perspective and they have different things that they're focusing on, right? Things that are important to them for the project. And you don't always understand it, but that's a direct preparation for, the real world and real business partnership, because you are coming together with all those teams, like Brandon said, right? Like, fine, I'm in HR, but I have to work with finance. I'm working with sales. I'm working with tech. I'm working with marketing all the time. And they have key things that are just really important to them. And I have to be able to understand that and partner with them, especially if I want to continue to be successful.
Zena, that is such a good call. I completely forgot about the group aspects and how we were each from the different centers.
Yeah.
I never even realized how well that prepared us for what we are doing now. So great call
Yeah.
out.
It's especially if most MBA programs are generalists, right? And to have essentially in your group subject matter experts in your particular silo who knew 7 layers deep in one particular part, but nobody quite knew the full picture, right? It forced the finance guy to see marketing and to see HR and to see, and I think it gave us an appreciation for being able to come into business problems and immediately look for the full picture, right? And not just be wedded to your own little HR silo or finance silo as the answer to everything.
Thank you all so much. It was very, very insightful. It kind of leads into my next question, and I don't know if we've already kind of touched on this point, but I wanted to know what were some skills that you saw the most improvement from the start of the program towards the end? And if you've already answered it, you feel free to say that.
I'll go first. I
Yeah.
can say, and I took this, I kind of twisted the question because I'm like, what have I seen the most growth in the program to now? And I'm going to tell you, love you, Tosan, hate finance though. And I struggled with finance, like really tough. And but now it's one of the things that I understand the most, especially being I work in HR, but I specifically do a lot of compensation. And so of course I'm working with finance. They're like my best friends. We're talking all the time, and it's rare that someone in HR is able to speak finance so fluently. And that is a perk of, unfortunately, having to suffer through the finance class. But I mean, I completely have been able to grow and take all those skills and build.
Yeah, for me, I can speak, and I touch on it, is definitely operation. One of my least favorite classes of all of time, but I only, I'm in that space, in that world, and those are definitely those transferable skills. Everything that I learned, it came back in real life situation, and I always remind myself I should have paid attention better, and kind of sweeping through all those pages that we got back then, really. And the communication, strategic communication, as well as partnership, as Zena mentioned very specifically, that partnership, those project work, those are real life situation in corporate. Your ability to partner very effectively, to advance and get results are very crucial. So I think that really those are skills that, when I look back, really prepare me to be in the positions that I'm today.
I'll add something that will sound weird coming from a finance person. I hate accounting. I hated accounting. I forget his name now. I remember the main thing I remember from him was during our final accounting exam, he dressed up as Gandalf with a "You shall not pass," which scared the crap out of me. But he said something that has stuck with me, right? And he was like, if you don't understand accounting, you don't understand the language of business. And if you don't understand the language of business, you cannot see the connections and the thread and what have you. So post that, I've actually doubled down. I've had to learn cost accounting. I've had to learn accounting for intangibles. In the various roles that I have, and that does have served me well in the various roles I have been in, because very few folks come into knowing in-depth software capitalization, for instance, right? So as painful as it sounds, accounting was probably my biggest skill growth.
And I'm going to wrap it up with strategy. What is the problem you are trying to solve, right? So that was one of the classes where I had a light bulb tick off. And in some of my subsequent roles, I find myself in strategic transformation. I did that at JP Morgan Chase. And that's where I find myself now at TD Bank. And that spark was lit in Hart Posen's strategy class. So yeah, so strategy is one of the key takeaways that I leverage in my career.
Perfect. Thank you all. I really appreciate you sharing. We are going to pivot and move to a different question that's a bit more difficult or tougher. And I did want to just acknowledge that if this question is too intense or it's a little triggering or whatever, you're more than welcome to choose to not answer. But as the university is working on supporting inclusion, DEI, and diversity, part of something that's really important to me is to ask about these types of things. So the question is, in what ways have you handled situations where diversity was not celebrated in the workplace? And I'll give you all a moment to think about that.
I can kick it off, give cover. One of the things that has helped me is I usually go into situations with no expectations, right? So if you're, because every company talks a good game, especially after 2020, right? Everybody's game went through the roof, but your actions speak louder than words. But if I have no expectations and I understand the way the playing field is set, I have to be twice as good, the same opportunity. Funny enough, I just realized now half of that is my wife. She's smarter than me with all the degrees and all that stuff. Well, we put that up there during COVID with Zoom, right? Because a lot of folks, whether this was at JP Morgan, I started realizing a lot of folks started taking folks for granted because you're not in your face and all that stuff. So my wife called it we used to share the office, she called it a remember who I am picture board. Funny enough, with Wisconsin being like I was the only Black student, if I remember, in my class in finance, right? Ironically enough, that prepares you for the workplace, right? It prepares you to be the only. It prepares you to, when groups are being set, right? You find out you're one of the last to be chosen on the group, right? Then through that, you find out who are truly allies, so to speak. And, it's not by mistake that I think my last 3-4 groups in Wisconsin were the same 3-4 guys and girls, right? You ride with your people, when skin folk ain't kinfolk kind of deal. So all this to say is if you come with no expectations, I would take what is offered. I understand the game that needs to be played. I understand that the very first thing that I have to present when I walk into a room is I need to almost de-escalate myself, right? And be liked, right? For a long time, I didn't wear a beard. I wasn't as brave as Brandon because in corporate finance, it wasn't rewarded, so to speak. So you get all the pieces of the game, get all the players, find your tribe, so to speak, and don't expect the utopia that corporations try to sell, because that is just not going to happen. Last thing I'll say, I said this, I've had a post on LinkedIn. My goal right now is when my son comes into the workplace, if it's just a little bit better, I'm cool, right? I don't expect any massive change within my lifetime.
Yeah, I really love how you put it, Tosin, about the expectation. I fully agree with that. No expectation is better than another expectation and getting disappointed in the process. And I'm gonna add on that from my own experiences always. Also, I always say love yourself first. Believe and don't expect any, you have to love yourself, you have to appreciate yourself, you have to be confident about your skills and capabilities. And I think that really helps you in the moment where there is no table, you feel there is no table for you to create your own. Because it's not only always about squeezing in the table and being someone else that you're not. Because the worst that can ever happen is acting not in your true self, in alignment with your true self and your true value. It is a hard skill to kind of build, but at the end of the day is we are all in corporate America, and Tosan mentioned it's not easy. Let's not pretend it is, because you're always the only one. I'm the only female VP HR black HR in my whole entire organization. But it's not going to be, I am not here to prove myself. I am here to contribute. I am not here to be liked. I am here to be contributing. And I think not having those expectations helps a lot. And just do your best, get your contribution in, and always remember that you're worth it. We all deserve the place that we are, because we are working very hard in terms of in the position that we are in. And things, as Tosan says, are they going to be perfect one day? I don't think so. I think it's just going to evolve to be hopefully better for the next generation after us. And as much we can contribute to that inclusion and making it a little bit easier for the next generation, I think that at least we can do.
I'll follow up and echo those sentiments. I think we all have children, and we want the corporate world to be a little bit better by the time our children are in our seats. And I always thought that by the time I was in this seat, that I wouldn't be the only. And I still look around, I'm still the only. But I don't let that discourage me, because if I stay where I am, when it's time for my children to get to my seat or higher, then they're going to be the only. So I need to keep going. Zena needs to keep going. Fatima needs to keep going. Tosa needs to keep going, so that by the time our kids are in our seats, there's 5 people there. There's 10 people there. Whenever I see a prominent Black executive on LinkedIn and they're somewhere I want to be, I shoot them a DM. They don't always respond, but like 9 times out of 10, they'll respond, right? The president of Mars responded because I reached out and said, hey, I admire where you are. I want a career like that. He said, keep going, right? T. Duckett, she is CEO of TIA Craft. She was the CEO of Consumer Bank when Tosa and I were at JP Morgan. When she got promoted, or with one of her roles, I said, you're a role model. I look up to you. And it's funny because they take from that energy. It also keeps them going, and it keeps them moving, knowing that we are coming behind them and trying to do our part for the generation behind us. So if you see someone you look up to, reach out to them, because they're probably going to respond. And if you get discouraged, keep going, because there's someone looking out at you as a role model.
Can I add one thing? It's a self-imposed rule I have. Michelle Obama talked about when you walk into a door, it's not enough to just keep the door open. You need to reach back out and pull somebody through the door. So one of the rules I have, whatever position I'm in, is by the time, if I leave the company, I've doubled myself. I've brought in at least 2 people of color into that company in whatever shape or form. It's almost like a coaching tree, so to speak, right? You plant your seeds and expand the coaching tree, so that perhaps in 20 years when we look up, there may be 2 of you in the VP position, maybe not 1, but it starts by, double yourself, right? As much as you're able to influence hiring manager, give that referral, and on and on.
I can say something, but it's been so much has been said and said so beautifully. So I don't need to.
All right. Well, thank you all. That was very inspiring. I'm like ready to go and make a move in the workforce here now. It was really, really beautifully said. I am going to pivot to the next question. This is somewhat related. But what advice do you have for current students of color, BIPOC students who are considering or who are currently enrolled in the UW-Madison MBA programs?
So
I'm just going to say, I'm going to piggyback off of what we just were discussing. And this was critical for me when I first got to Wisconsin. Again, remember, I'm a Florida girl. I was in Georgia, and then I went to Wisconsin. Talk about culture shock, okay? And so the one thing that I needed to tell myself, and I would tell every person of color, is that you belong here. You are here for a reason. And that is like, that was something that I needed to remind myself of, like, every day. That, hey, I belong here. I'm not less than anybody. Like, I deserve to be here.
I was so happy when I met you at UW, Zena. um, I wanna say this is more important for people who are considering an MBA, pre-MBA, but also when you're an MBA and post-MBA, leverage organizations that exist to facilitate people of color being within business. So consortium, if you're pre-MBA, I think we're all consortium fellows, but then also National Black MBA. When I was looking for a career transition, it was completely off my radar, but there's that conference every year where you can network with alums and companies. But even if you are pre-MBA, if you're an undergrad, you can join these organizations at extremely reduced rates, have access to conferences for pretty much free, and start building your network, gaining that exposure and gaining that experience. It's never too early to begin building your network and finding about what being an MBA entails, whether you are pre-MBA, during your MBA, or post-MBA. These organizations exist. They can support you when you're in downtimes of your career. Don't forget about them, because they do exist, and you can go back, go to the conference, and network. And it could be a game changer.
Yeah. I totally echo everything that's already been said. Network, network, network. Pre-MBA, post-MBA, and definitely. I remember when I was in the program, we were a very small, extremely small minority groups, as everybody can expect, and we used to call ourselves the chocolate crew to this day. And those partnerships are just so important, and they still last. But open up your your networking as well. It is just important to just go to conferences, get to build those network very early on. And Wisconsin is such a great program in terms of really supporting those network. I remember we get opportunities to go to OP for consortium. We went to National Black MBA, and at the time they were even supporting us to kind of go into those different conferences. So just take all those opportunities that you have to network, and that makes this program such an amazing program overall.
Build on that, all right, especially for pre-MBA. For those who are looking at Wisconsin, and the first thing that comes to your mind is like, maybe like Zena, why would a Black girl from Florida and Georgia go to Madison, Wisconsin? Like, good Lord, right? Do your research, right? The business school is still, if I call them a Midwest powerhouse at minimum, right? The access you have. My first 6 months in there, I was sitting across from, one-on-one time with soon-to-be CFO of Procter & Gamble, Target, VP of IR, Target. These are the companies we all want to work for, Starbucks and what have you. And the alumni network from Wisconsin is ridiculous, right? But to what everybody said, you got to network and tap into that network. 1, 2, you got to network outside of your comfort zone, right? You can't just network with fellow people of color, right? You got to network with anybody who will pick up that phone, even if you are a bachelor's badger, whatever, even if you have a graduate certificate. I am connecting to you on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is that's my superpower, right? I'm connecting to you, and we're chatting up stuff and what have you. During the MBA, get involved, right? I get involved in organizations, clubs, what have you, that again will push you out of your comfort zone. I served as the president of the Diversity in Business, but I was also a part of Out for Business, right? I was also a part of I forget the third one, but it's all more than anything to make sure that you create relationships that I can still call on almost a decade later, because they didn't know me as just a fellow Badger. This was their boy Tosa, right? And if Tosin is asking you for a referral to this company that I want to go to, you'll pick up the phone before you'll pick up a quote unquote just a badger, right? So get involved, seek to build relationships. Don't make it so transactional. And there are really some really cool people sitting next to you, going through the same program, and you'll be surprised what you can learn from.
I want to follow up on a couple of points that Tosin said. Getting involved, right? If you're involved in groups while you're in business school, when you are in your career, some of the expectations of making it to those higher levels is that you're involved within the community. I'm on the board of trustees for Lutheran Community Services. I'm not Lutheran, but the mission is supporting homelessness and food insecurity in my community. So I'm on the board of trustees. So I'm in a group that's outside my comfort zone, but I believe in that mission and I'm exposed to different groups. That's also helping me in my career because it's showing that I possess leadership in different areas within an organization. So that's one. Two, all of those events while you are in business school, the Weichel series, the business dinners, the networking dinners, that's practice and it's also an exam because when you're in the corporate world, you need to know how to network and know how to have your glass of wine and not drink too much wine because if you drink too much wine at a business dinner, you could blow the deal, right? That is practice that you are getting in business school. I've literally sat at the table with billionaires, CMOs, future CEOs because I was provided those opportunities at University of Wisconsin, right? So you are given opportunities to really hone your networking skill. And networking sucks. It's uncomfortable. It's awkward, but it's not always about asking for something from someone. You're building connections, and those connections you can leverage in the future, and you might be their connection in the future, right? So get over that awkwardness, get over the fear, take advantage of the opportunity that you have at UW to practice that very important skill set.
One quick thing and piggyback, it has to do with networking, but also don't be afraid to network outside of the business school. So like some of the best relationships I created were people who were in like med or were in law. And I have, again, to everyone's point, to this day, I still have strong connections to those people. And it helped me enhance my overall experience as well.
All right, thank you all for that advice. That is so good. I'm taking that for myself because I really liked it. We have just a few minutes here left, and I don't have anything in the Q&A, but we can sit and wait for a little bit and just chat for a bit, and see if anything pops up in the meantime. Otherwise, I think we are pretty close for time to 12:45.
This is a good place to practice your questions that you ask at the Weichel series that will get the Weichel speaker to remember you so that when you connect to them on LinkedIn, you're not just a random connection. Hint, hint.
That's a good hint.
We do have a hand raised.
Oh, thank you. I see that right now. Somebody asked, can future students reach out to you all to network?
Absolutely. And don't just reach out to connect, reach out to engage. One tip I got from, I forget his name now, he's at Procter & Gamble. He goes, if you have almost a spreadsheet or Rolodex, I don't remember things. I remember my birth date if I didn't know it offhand, where every quarter there's a tranche of folks that my calendar reminds me you need to reach out to Tim Cross, this person, that person, blah, 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 blah. And in order for me to reach out to them, it's not a, hi, Tim, how are you? It's more I know what his position is at P&G is. I have a Google alert on P&G. There's a nice news article I can share. Like, this makes sense. Tell me why you did this. You're reaching out to engage. You're not just reaching out just to have 5,000 LinkedIn connections that yield nothing to you, but be intentional about almost debate, so to speak, in order to draw them into conversation with you. And then you get a president of Mars Wrigley replying your IM, because which Brandon must have done something because the man is busy, you know?
Well, that goes to the point I want to make. Keep your LinkedIn up to date. Keep it fresh, right? Every time you get promoted, every time you make a move, put it there so your connections aren't seeing a stale LinkedIn that only reflects your time in undergrad when you've been out of MBA for 6 years, right? So keep it fresh.
All right, I think we are hitting time. We are at 12:45. Thank you all so much for speaking at our panel. I really appreciate it. And the words of advice were very, very insightful. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you all. It's great
Thanks.
seeing his faces. Brandon, Zena, text me. Fatima, we shouldn't be talking to each other just on Zoom. Come on now.
I'll LinkedIn you in a minute so I can get your number.
There you go.
Okay.
Good chat.
Okay,
Go
bye.
Badgers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.